But what I don't appreciate is the spreading of potential misinformation, which again I'm sure is not her intention, but is maybe coming from a lack of educational content. We are back once again, and we've actually just passed the 39,000 subscriber mark. So, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel, thank you very much for tolerating my channel, and thank you very much for not hating me yet. The video today is kind of one I've been putting off making for a while because I've done a few videos on this content creator in the past. In each of the videos, I've had people either comment or maybe drop me a message on Instagram saying, look Harry, you've looked at Blogilates' TikTok, you looked at her Instagram, but you never look at her YouTube. And a lot of these comments were very much talking about how the YouTube content has maybe changed over the recent years and how it used to be much better a few years ago versus what it is now, etc, etc. Today we're going to look at just that. I have actually already had a look, and I think a few things need to be said. But before those things are said, we obviously must do what needs to be done, you know what's coming. If at any point you decide you like the video, I would really appreciate it if you did like the video, because 1100 likes in the first 24 hours is the goal, so if we shoot for that, that'd be bloody amazing. Please do consider clicking the red button down below and subscribing to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week, because sometimes YouTube decides not to tell people, and sometimes it hurts. YouTube ghosts me sometimes. That's a hard pill to swallow. If you have a question for comment question of the week, please drop it down below in the comment section and I shall answer it at the end of the next video. By the way, if you aren't aware, you probably aren't aware, but I do actually link it in the description. I've actually started a fitness podcast with a couple of friends, one of which is the owner of one of the gyms I go to, and the other is a friend of mine who I have trained alongside for many, many years, and it is called Pump Fiction. Get the name, and it's always linked down below in the description or on the link tree in my Instagram bio. If you do fancy having a gander and listening to me waffle for a while, have a gander. We'll crack on with the video because I don't want to hold you too long. Blogilates. Again, like I said, this is a video I've been delay making because, to be honest, I don't want people to think that I'm kind of trying to build content on her name. It's kind of like I've seen things that have almost upset me and disappointed me. I've mentioned them and people have obviously said, Harry, check out the YouTube, or Harry, she used to do better content, she used to be better at what she's doing. So I figured, you know what, I put this off for long enough. I think it's time that I actually cover it and actually discuss what needs to be discussed and give a bit more of an educated insight into what she has done in the past versus what she's doing now. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. The issue I initially presented with Cassey and her content was the fact that although I always appreciate people who are getting people active and healthy and into the fitness industry, I think that's fantastic. And the fact that she has over 5.8 million subscribers means she's clearly encouraging a lot of people to live a more active and healthier lifestyle, which is bloody amazing. The issue I had though is there was a lot of misinformation being spread. And unfortunately, there was actually a bit of backlash from my disagreements with her content. Again, I'm never trying to disagree in an offensive or rude manner. I'm always trying to be polite. I'm always trying to be respectful because I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm not here to build a name on bashing others. I'm trying to build a name on educating and entertaining others. And some of that does unfortunately mean that I have to correct or at least give an opinion that I deem to be correct regarding the content of somebody else. Other people will come to say, you know what, I actually really used to like Blogilates and her content a few years ago, but recently it's really gone down the pan. So I said that's really interesting because I had only seen her recent content, so perhaps maybe her older content was much better. And I'm sure some of it was. As you know, I can never look at every video, but I have seen a few and I looked at her more popular videos and a few did jump out to me that were again not as great as I was expecting. As we know, some of her more recent content is very much content like this, in which she gives these kind of variations of known bodyweight movements that maybe aren't ideal or optimal. So here she's obviously talking about a push-up variation. So if you're looking at kind of targeting muscle, maybe let's say you're considering hypertrophy, you want to try and lengthen and shorten that muscle as effectively as possible. And when you're doing a push-up variation that ultimately limits your range of motion by essentially doing like a pulse, like a half push, that would be considered a full ROM. Whereas now she's encouraging half ROM. It's not ever going to the lockout portion, which is essentially the peak contraction of the triceps, which is the muscle you're obviously trying to work when doing the push-up variation with the elbows close. And that's where I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding of just because you're hurting it doesn't mean you're working it. Sure, there is often some pain associated with effectiveness, but like I've said before, I could tense my biceps really hard and they would really hurt. Doesn't mean I'm doing anything for them. When you're taking that muscle through that range of motion, where in theory is kind of under constant tension because you're never locking it out and never take it to its fully shortened position, it will probably burn quite a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's more effective. And I think that's kind of what is almost being implied here to some degree. I do back what Cassey is saying here, where we're saying things look too easy or girly, because yes, it is often offensive. And I do get the try before you talk. But again, ultimately, just because it feels hard doesn't mean it's effective. And that's, again, another misconception. Like I said, I could think of 100 movements in the gym that I could do that I'd be like, oh, this is a really hard movement. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help me achieve my goals. And that's one of the issues of the more recent content of Cassey's I had. Let's flip it back to some of the older stuff. Let's go back to 2014. And it's the fact that even things like this were being promoted, in which she's promoting a natural belly slimming detox water recipe. Is that really content that should be promoted? A lot of people are saying, oh, her older content is much better. Is this much better? When I see things like these detox water recipes or anything along those lines, immediately I'm thinking, this is a concern. Because a lot of people unfortunately do believe that drinking these detox teas and drinking this detox water will lead them to lose mass weight and mass fat and live an amazing healthy lifestyle, when in reality it doesn't quite work like that. I think these often sell a bit of a pipe dream, which is a concern. And I know in this video in 2018, Cassey speaks about how she didn't eat for 3 days because she went on a juice cleanse following a holiday. Whether the cleanse was intentional, whether the cleanse was an experiment, or whether the cleanse was to prove that it doesn't work. Again, it's the promotion of something I don't feel necessarily should be promoted. So not only is the title concerning, I do understand it's clickbait, and again, I do understand why it's done. A lot of people would take that at face value and say, you know what, Blogilates didn't eat for 3 days. Maybe I could not eat for 3 days. And I think that is quite a concern.
I actually thought that the juice cleanse was going to have a negative effect on me. I thought that I would hate it, that it wouldn't be good for me at all. So I'm really surprised that it worked.
She does go on to say, you know, it worked for me, it doesn't mean it works for you, which I do always appreciate when people do clarify, like, this is just me, doesn't need to be applied to you. But unfortunately, a lot of people will apply it to themselves. I think when a lot of times when you do lose weight through things like juice cleanses, it's not uncommon to gain that weight back very quickly when you start eating solid foods again. So again, I think promoting these things can actually be really quite damaging. And especially when you look into the realm of disordered eating and eating disorders, I do think this can lead a lot of people down quite a negative path. If somebody's already going down that path, I feel like this could potentially enhance the problem, which is always going to be a concern. Let's focus a bit more on the workouts, because that's kind of why we're here. We're going to look at 6 Min to Sexy Arms, which has nearly 12 million views and was posted in 2014. So again, her older content, which in theory should be better than a lot of the more recent content I've seen.
Circle, circle, just like that. Now, I want you to go vigorous, nice and strong, as fast as you can.
In all honesty, this doesn't really look particularly different to the workouts that I have already seen of Cassey, which is interesting. Because like I said, it's nearly 12 million views, and a lot of people say, you know what, her older content is very different and much better. Is this very different or much better? It really does depend on what the purpose of the video is and what she's trying to achieve from this video. Which again, I think is something that's always in question with Cassey and her content, is you never really fully know what the goal of the video is.
Up, 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 oh, that burns, and so love it. And there, and up, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This is very much similar to what I had seen on her TikTok, to be honest. That she has been posting very similar videos to this. So this workout is marketed as an arm workout. And when I say the arms, you commonly think the biceps and the triceps. You don't often associate arms with shoulders because they're labeled differently because they are different parts of the body. The shoulders and arms are separate. Like the shoulders and chest are separate and the shoulders and back are separate. Do you mean they are separate body parts? When you create a workout that's meant to say 6 minutes to sexy arms, and this is the hardest arm workout you will ever do using absolutely no weights, my shoulders felt so hard after it. That's probably the pump, i.e. the build-up of blood in that area, thus making the area feel tighter, therefore the pump. I have not seen a single bicep tricep movement, and by that I mean a movement that takes the elbow through either extension against resistance or flexion against resistance, i.e. tricep bicep. At the moment during this workout, all I have seen are what I would call like shoulder pump exercises, and by that I mean movements in which the shoulders are under tension for a pretty significant period of time, thus leading them to burn, to hurt, to feel pumped, when in reality that tension is just gravity, holding them in different positions, doing all sorts, moving them through different positions without any additional resistance outside of gravity. We already know if your goal of this workout is to build a bit of muscle, even just a little bit, through Pilates, wherever it may be, that you are going to want to progressively overload to some degree, and it's really hard to progressively overload gravity. What you can do is obviously increase the number of reps performed. That would involve tracking them the number of reps performed, which I don't think you're necessarily doing during a workout like this. And again, I know these workouts are more geared towards Pilates rather than optimizing the building of muscle, which is absolutely fine. Not everything has to be about optimizing the building of muscle. But again, I think a lot of people fall into the trap where they believe these workouts will do more for them than they think they will, if that makes sense. And in reality, a lot of Cassey's content, if not most of it, is based on doing bodyweight movements. Maybe there are occasional resistance movements in there. I've seen some dumbbell work as well. But ultimately, it's mainly bodyweight movements that leave the muscle burning and hurting, but again, not necessarily working effectively or efficiently, we'll say. But in fairness to Cassey, she does have some nicer videos which are a bit more motivational, a bit more about the mindset, which I do appreciate, where she speaks about obviously 6 things if you want to transform your body. Things like this I think are quite uplifting, and I do appreciate that. Number 1, she says about work out at least 30 minutes a day. Rest when you need. I like that. You obviously got to rest. We know rest is very important. But the thing to consider here is if you can do 30 minutes of working out most days a week, that's bloody splendid. Well done. Just make sure that 30 minutes is of high quality. And again, what you deem to be good is very much dependent on your abilities. Number 2, we're looking at eat unprocessed foods and avoid added sugars. I don't want to comment too much about the nutrition side of things because I think that's a whole nother video in itself. We could talk about like macros, calories, quality of foods, things like that. So we're just going to acknowledge it and say, you know what, do what's best for you. Drink at least half your body weight in fluid ounces of water a day. Just ensure you're drinking enough water. For a lot of people, that's going to be maybe at least 2 litres of water a day, but that's dependent on so many variables I couldn't ever give a universal answer there. Sleep at least 7 to 8 hours a day. 7 to 8 hours I think is a pretty solid number. They always say try and shoot for 8 hours if you can. I'm also fully aware that not everyone can, so you know, if you can only sleep for 7 hours, you sleep for 7 hours. Just ensure the quality of sleep is high. You're not spending too much time on your phone beforehand. It's hopefully not broken sleep, things like that. Try and control as many variables as possible to ensure that your sleep quality throughout the night is bloody splendid. Focus on how you feel. I like this because this is like a bit of a mood tracker, and I think this is commonly overlooked and neglected. I think sometimes you can be like, you know what, went to the gym today, did my workout, it wasn't great, it wasn't the best workout I've ever had, but in fairness, I wasn't feeling too good. I woke up and I couldn't tell you why, but I felt quite anxious in the morning. You know, I felt a bit low. It felt like a bit of a grey day. Things just feel a bit cloudy. It's okay. I didn't necessarily progressively overload. I didn't do what I thought I was going to do and maybe wanted to do in the gym, but the fact is I got to the gym. I did my workout at home. I did what I said I was going to do, which is turn up, and I think that is huge. And even if you aren't able to turn up, so I woke up today, I couldn't work out. Mentally, I was just not there. I felt anxious, I did not feel at ease, and I just really took a lot out of my day. You say, you know what, no sweat. That's a rest day. And without rest, you don't recover. And without recovery, you don't progress. Maybe taking that day off did you a favour, because not only are you recovering from the mental fatigue you're clearly experiencing and dealing with, but you're also recovering physically. So when you wake up tomorrow and you're feeling better, you have an even better workout than you would have had the day before. You've got to try and find those silver linings, Be kinder to yourself. Don't feel guilty for missing a day. Like I said, missing a day is not the end of the world. Recovery is just as important, and recovery stems beyond just physical recovery, but also mental and emotional recovery too. So again, please prioritise it how you feel. I think Cassey suggesting people keep track of their mood is a really good thing to do, and I appreciate that from her. Number 6, have a strong why and you won't quit. I do think having a strong why is really important. Having that why does kind of give you that direction, and once you have a direction, you know the path to follow. So again, I know and fully acknowledge I've not looked at all of Cassey's workouts, and a lot of my opinion is a comparison of the things I've already seen through my previous videos, like her TikTok and Instagram and whatnot, versus some of the older content I have seen on her channel, which is very much some of her more popular older content. The issue I have is not with Cassey. I have no issue with her personally. I never will have an issue with her personally, I'm sure, because again, I don't actually know her personally. I know her as a content creator being Blogilates. There is a lot of promotion of potentially misinformation, which I feel like may not be her intention, but due to lack of explanation is causing a lot of people to maybe go down a less than ideal path when it comes to the realm of health and fitness. I don't just mean physical health, but I mean in some cases emotional, psychological health, as a few people did mention some disordered eating behaviours that I have acknowledged, as well as nutritional health, we'll say. And the thing with Cassey, obviously she's been around for 12 years, which is fantastic, and she's still growing. Again, fantastic. Love to see that she's still growing, moving in the right direction. Bloody splendid. More and more people going to her channel, more and more people maybe getting a bit confused with potential misinformation, and maybe feeling in some cases disheartened that they haven't experienced the results they were expecting to experience by following her workouts. I appreciate that she's getting people active. I love to see that, and I appreciate that she is promoting some good messages when it comes to things like the mood diary and stuff like that. I love that. But what I don't appreciate is the spreading of potential misinformation, which again I'm sure is not her intention, but is maybe coming from a lack of educational content. A lot of people will take things like this from face value. They won't necessarily delve into greater detail and figure out the why. Like I always say, if you can't justify why you're doing a movement, you probably shouldn't do it. That's, like I said, what my my real issues are. It's just the misinformation and lack of education, which I think is incorrectly guiding many people, unfortunately. The older content I have seen is unfortunately very similar to the newer content I have seen, and I'm not really seeing how either is better or worse than the other. I think it's maybe just marketed slightly differently. Now we must very quickly crack on with comment question of the week. So someone actually asked, which I know has probably been a question a few of you have had, what's the yellow thing behind you? It looks like a toddler's finger painting that they've brought home from daycare and you're a proud dad displaying it on the fridge. I'm not a dad, I can assure you that I have no children. So it is a calendar that my niece created with, it seems to be finger painting or maybe sponge painting, and so you can see there is a calendar here. This white thing is the calendar, this is just her painting. I guess technically you're not far off. But yes, it is a toddler's finger painting with a calendar below it. That is it. That is a video. If you like the video, 1100 likes in the first 24 hours is the goal. If we could reach that, that'll be bloody fantastic. Please do consider clicking the red button down below and subscribing to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you too have a question you'd like me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below in the comment section for a comment question of the week and I shall do so. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating this transition period where I still figure out what I'm going to replace the hats with. I'm toying with the idea and I will be presenting all of the ideas you have suggested to the TFNL mods. But on top of that, and most importantly, thank you for tolerating the video.